This is definitely going to ruin the tour. Welcome back to the Spectral Frame. Today we're talking about Smile 2, the follow-up to 2022's Smile. That's a lot of twos. We have writer-director Parker Finn returning, but this time we have Naomi Scott as our pop star lead. Not to mention we have Lucas Gage, Rosemary DeWitt, Miles Gutierrez Riley, and Ray Nicholson playing Jack Nicholson, playing Paul Hudson. Is his name Ray? I forgot it already.
Something really crazy is happening to me. I need to stop it, but I don't know how.
It's because you're a horrible person.
Gemma?
This thing feeds off all the bad shit in your head.
Smile 2 is the story of recovering drug addict and pop star Sky Riley, played by Naomi Scott, as she tries to return to the stage. It's been a year since she had a horrible drugged-up car accident that killed her boyfriend, and now she's just ready to get back out there. She's sober, she's feeling good, she's feeling limber. I think she does something like that. She's struggling a little bit because obviously she's in recovery, but her back is hurting her, so since she can't get legal drugs, she has to go to her drug-dealing friend to get a couple little pills just to get her back on the road. But when she shows up at her friend's house, he's lost his mind. Have you ever had to like sit in a room and smoke a blunt with your drug dealer while he talks about his favorite episodes of Dragon Ball Z? You just want a dime sack and you just want to get out of there. This is worse.
Louis?
He proceeds to kill himself in front of her with a big old smile on his face. And you know what that means? She's infected with the... she's got the smiley face demon. It's in her now. But she's got to go on tour.
Oh no!
To be perfectly transparent, I did not really want to see Smile 2. I've already dealt with one pop star focused horror film this year, and I was not in the mood for another one.
Be kind of dope, right?
Safe to say, I'm no Lady Raven fan myself, but another reason I didn't want to watch this was because Smile 1 didn't really hit for me. I didn't really like it. I just thought it was goofy, and the whole creepy smile thing felt gimmicky, and my cholesterol is high enough, so I didn't feel the need to, like, ingest more cheese, but here we are. Fuck it. So was it better than Smile? Short answer, yeah. Long answer, better, but still not great. I guess the long answer would be the rest of this fucking review.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sky Riley, you are in the middle of a big world tour.
I keep seeing this face everywhere.
We're going to keep most of this spoiler-free, but I will have to talk about the ending, so I'll give you a heads up when we get to that territory. My first like about Smile 2 is that it's pretty seamlessly connected to the first one. I don't think it necessarily needed it, but I think it worked kind of nicely. It gave us an exciting opener to the movie with Kyle Gallner reprising his role as Joel, and there's a lot going on. Lots of action, and then the scene ends a little cliche, but, you know, fun enough. I was willing to say whatever, and we move on with the rest of the movie. I go into movies wanting to like them. I promise you I do.
This thing is a parasite. You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you.
So in the opening, I mentioned how I didn't like Smile 1 that much. They really went with the creepy smile thing a lot, and they talked about it a lot, but here, they kind of downplayed those things. Even when you see people with the smile, it's less cartoony, I think, than the first one. They really focused on this in the first one and really lingered on the shots. I didn't think it was creepy, and here, they use it more sparingly. They don't talk about it as much, so when they do smile, I still don't think it's creepy, but it pulls me out less. And again, the first one went so hard on this, all I could think about was that movie that came out a few years before that, called Truth or Dare.
You die.
Truth or Dare.
That movie fucking sucks. Oh my god, I hate that movie. Such a bad gimmick, you know? Another thing I like better about this film than The First Smile is the atmosphere. We're really given time here to lean into these concepts and explore them a little more, and I think with the added benefit of sound design and great music, we really get a sense of dread throughout this whole thing. It's anxiety-inducing, it's compelling, it really lets us wallow in some of the more depressing aspects. The movie's paced in such a way that we kind of get lulled into this rhythm with the music and things going on that when the horror does happen, it's that much more impactful. It feels less expected, and it definitely got a bigger reaction out of me. I'm not an easy scare, but there's definitely a few jumpy moments there for me. I think those scares were the best. Unlike Trap, we don't get a ton of Sky Riley performing that much. We do get some rehearsal stuff, which I think is effective. We get the lights and the dancing and all that stuff. We're kind of sucked up into this dark performance. So when the horror happens on top of that, that's another moment where it feels really unexpected and got a reaction out of me. If there's one thing I love about horror movies, it is good atmosphere. I don't need a theme park ride where it's just boo, bah, bah, things popping out. I hate that stuff. Good atmosphere, for me, is the key to a great horror film, and a horror film that also makes me want to come back to it.
What?
Another thing that sets apart Smile 2 from the first one is more inventive visuals. I think that goes hand in hand with more confident direction, but here you can tell director Parker Finn has a much better handle on his material. We have unique cinematography, we also have really interesting transitions from scene to scene that I thought were really cool and immersive. We have a lot better handle on the big visuals of like a big pop star performance and setting up that world. It's just all around so much more solid. There's a couple great sequences that stick out in my mind. First, it's a sequence where Sky is in her apartment and she's haunted by her smiling backup dancers. They're all over in the apartment. They're almost like spiders, and there's this like kind of choreography to it, you know? They're running around the apartment, they're picking her up. It's really freaky the way they move, and I think it's one of the most compelling visual sequences we get in this movie. Give me more stuff like this, please. There's also a flashback sequence where Sky fights with her boyfriend Paul in the car, and there's like a camera between them, and it quickly whip pans back and forth, and it's really striking. It kind of made me like a little sick even watching it here at my house, but I thought it was so exciting. It really like amped up the tension between these characters and made me feel so anxious because they're driving down this snowy road, and you kind of know where the scene is going based on how they set it up, but you just don't know when it's going to happen until they're like... It was good. It was pretty good. Another thing I thought was better about Smile 2 is the themes. Here, the themes of like addiction and relapse and stuff are like really spelled out, better executed, and organic to the story it's trying to tell. Some of those themes are kind of on the nose, like we get it, but I will take this any day over Smile 1 because those themes felt so shoehorned in. Like there's issues, but they kept kind of having to come back and address them, whereas this all felt so built in. Everything just kind of flowed and everything made sense, and I don't feel like there was any narrative trips to try to bring this all together. It just worked.
What the f is your problem, man?
Sorry, what?
Last on my likes, Naomi Scott as pop star Sky Riley is a great lead. In the first Smile, Sosie Bacon's performance was kind of one note, but here, Naomi Scott really digs in. We get all those highs and lows. She has to please so many people and be sweet and nice to her fans and label and stuff, but also she's freaking out. And so she has to hide all these things, and there's just a lot of dynamics in this performance that elevates some of the goofier parts of the script that otherwise I think would have been way worse off. Like, they honestly put her through so much in this movie. As much as it's not my favorite thing out there, I think she does a really great job of handling this. Hopefully this leads her to more and bigger roles as well, because I think she knocks it out of the park here. All those things are big helps to this movie, but we definitely have some dislikes, and I definitely got to get into them.
You're not in control! I am!
It's too long. 2 hours and 7 minutes is the runtime of this movie. If your movie is a straight up horror or comedy, an hour and a half feels perfect. I'll even give you an hour 45, but when we're hitting that 2 hour mark, you better justify that runtime. This does not. As much as I said I like the atmosphere of this movie, there's a number of scenes that just go on so long, and we get the point very early, and they just keep going on. Get on with it. A big thing where this is notable is some of the horror scenes. Early, I get it, we have a little bit of tension and we set things up, but then when we do the same thing later on in the film, we get it already. We don't have to do the slow burn spooky things. It feels like it's just dragging its feet, even though we're not getting any more out of the scene. We're not getting any more horror or tension. It feels like I went through a haunted house and now I'm just standing in line for the bathroom. Like, I'm sure there's more horrors in the bathroom, but we already got the good stuff. Again, the most effective scares from this movie came out of nowhere. That's not to say jump scares, there's a few jump scares, but there's some scares that are set up a little bit earlier and then pay off in a big burst. Those were super effective. There's just a few that just keep building up and don't really pay off in any way that I find scary. It's just fucking get on with it, dude.
He was systematically infected, possessed, and then murdered by some kind of metaphysical being.
Another thing I disliked about this movie is the script. It's not all bad, and it's definitely better than Smile 1, but it's still not doing itself any favors in the long haul. There's just so many goofy ass moments that pulled me out of this thing. There's nothing I hate more than exposition scenes in horror movies. What's the demon? How do we kill it? How does it work? Blah, blah, blah. They have to happen in some horror movies, but they can be done in a more organic way. This movie just stops dead in its tracks to talk about it. I don't feel like we learned that much new since we already saw the first Smile, and now having to stop and talk about the smiley demon or whatever, it's just, it's not good, and I hate it, actually. Just hearing it all out loud again made me roll my eyes.
If it helps, you might call it a spirit or a demon, maybe. I have no clue.
Without getting into spoilers, I know some of this stuff kind of comes back later, but I also wish the script trusted its audience more to just go with it. I think it set up this really cool world, and having to sit there and kind of explain all these things feels like a step backward. If you trust your audience, especially with the sequel, they will go with you. I promise. We get it. Another thing, this movie gets pretty cartoony. Again, not as bad as Smile 1, but there's some moments in this movie that I'm like, oh boy, turn it down like that much. There's no like opening up a dead cat as a birthday present stuff in here like the first one, but there's a few moments where I'm like, oh, come on. But I will say the thing that frustrated me the most about this movie is the ending. We'll get into it more in the spoiler section, but I was willing to forgive a lot about this movie, and then we got to the end, and no, I'm not a forgive and forgetter. Not in this case. The ending destroyed all the goodwill I had leading up to this point and just felt like such a cheap rug pull. This is a fundamental failure of the script and storytelling, and it feels like such a ripoff. We had so much anxiety and so much momentum building up through this third act, all for nothing. It made me feel like I was watching a late era Shyamalan movie, dude. Like, you know, the ones with the bad twists? That kind of thing. But to talk about that more, we gotta get into the spoiler section. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code. There's probably a time code somewhere on the screen. Skip to that.
This thing is a parasite. You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you. Nobody has survived longer than a week.
Sky, pull it together.
So how about that ending? In the last act of this movie, Sky has been losing her mind and everybody's noticed. So her mother checks her into this like recuperation facility so she can get some more energy before she hits the road, even though shit has already hit the fan. Her mother kind of berates her, saying that she needs to pull herself up out of this. She's like blowing it and she's gonna ruin her life. She's already ruined her mother's life. All this horrible stuff that her mom says. So through the smile demon, Sky kills her. She has to get out of the facility, so she steals a gun from a security guard. Then she steals a car, drives to an abandoned Pizza Hut in Staten Island, and meets up with this guy Morris, who has a plan to get the smile demon out of her.
All right, I promise I'll shoot you.
Basically, this guy Morris, who we had that big exposition scene with earlier, he has an idea on how to kill the smile demon. What he's gonna do is like inject her with this shot, which slows down her heart and kills her. Then he's gonna resuscitate her and bring her back to life. He thinks that if she can die and then be brought back, the smile demon won't have anything to latch onto anymore since she died and will thus be gone forever. It's kind of like Evil Dead 2013, but less blood and more Pizza Hut. While she's waiting to get injected, the smile demon comes and attacks her. She's about to inject the shot and kill herself when the smile demon lets her know,
"You're not in control, Sky. I am."
it's all been in her head. We cut to Sky on stage, night one of her tour, in front of her entire audience. Her mom isn't dead, everybody's there supporting her. Basically, the last act of the movie didn't actually happen. It was just all a fantasy that was created by the smile demon. While she stopped on stage, this like fleshy nightmare demon puppet enters her body through her mouth. She smiles at the crowd and then proceeds to kill herself off camera while the crowd just watches. Her body hits the stage, and we see that she killed herself by forcing her microphone through her skull, somehow. And I guess now everybody is just infected with the smile demon. I hate this ending. I don't think it's clever. I don't think it was fun, like, oh, the demon tricked her into all this stuff. No, because you set up a great third act. Sky killing her mom was wild. Everything is just falling apart. The tour, her huge pop star lifestyle, her friends, everything is just collapsing in on itself. And we lead up to this great ending that, yeah, it's a little cliche. Again, we kind of saw this in Evil Dead 2013, but it had built up all this momentum, and now just poof, none of that stuff really happened, and everybody's fine, and now she just kills herself. I'm so mad. It had so much potential. I don't think it would have been like the greatest ender to a horror movie ever, but it would have made sense, and it really brought me along for the ride. I was so tense. After she kills her mom, she's like in this gown, she's covered in blood, so she has to like put on a sweatshirt, she has to try to sneak out. It goes wrong, she steals the gun, fires one off, and they drive off to Staten Island. It's just like, dude, ugh. It's so frustrating because I think this was such a great setup and a perfect example of just wasting my time. Like, this movie is over 2 hours, and essentially the last 20 to 30 minutes of it didn't matter and didn't really happen. It feels like such a cheap rug pull. Despite my misgivings of the film, I think it was a really great setup and executed pretty well. There's lots of freaky things about it, and most of all, I was tense. I'm never really that tense during movies, but this had me there. And just to squander it all with a cheap little, it was all a spooky smile demon dream. It just sucks, dude. If it didn't go that way, I would really like this movie a lot more. I really, really would. I can't imagine I'm the only one frustrated with this movie. There's plenty of people rating this thing on IMDb, so we're gonna take a look, check out some 10 stars, and check out some 1-star reviews, and see where we all kind of land with it.
I promise I'll shoot you.
As of this recording, Smile 2 has a 6.8 on IMDb, which I think is a little high, but we're going to check out some 10-star reviews first. Alright, our first review comes from Sarah Khaled, 75975. This film made my day! I can't get over it and the acting of Naomi Scott. I love the song New Brain and the performance and connecting the character and what she's working through, and her weakness points to the horror parameters. I actually didn't mention this earlier, but there is a lot of original music in this movie for pop star Sky Riley, and we don't get nearly as much of it as we did in like Trap, but the songs we do here I think are fine. Big shampoo for the ending and last 45 minutes were mind-blowing. I don't know what that word is, but you guys know how I feel about the ending. Big disagree on that. Naomi Scott need a prize for her acting, and I didn't expected this magnificent role from her, really. I do agree with this, she did really great, and like I said earlier, I hope I see more of her. Alright, we have a 10-star review from Moonlight Cactus. Smile 2 is a terrifying movie. It has good use of good jump scares, and it is balanced in a way that it doesn't become ridiculous. Big disagree on that. The jump scares are chilling that I think that car jump scare scene from Smile 1 was recreated as a better version in Smile 2. Yeah. The sequel is still as fresh, and the way it surprises and twists us is so perfect. You cannot even recognize if that scene is happening for real or not, that you'd be so twisted after that scene. I disagree. I think those fake outs in small doses and in small amounts of time do work, but when you're negating the last 30 minutes of your movie, basically, no. Awful. The ending was still super terrifyingly amazing, especially that opening act. That was the best opening of 2024. I mean, it was fine, but I wouldn't say that. It's so good. If you've seen it, then you could agree with me. I have seen it, and I don't agree with you. Naomi Scott acted those scenes so perfect. Every scene was memorable for me, and just from the sound design, it's so perfectly loud, and it just gets through your skin and ears. I do agree. The sound design was great. It penetrated my ears, not as much my skin, but I see your point. Now we gotta get on to some probably poorly worded 1-star reviews. Alright, we got a 1 out of 10 star review from HWQDQXHP. These names are terrible. Not worth watching for $20. Play Call of Duty Warzone new season, you be hell scared. Disappointing follow-up that relies on cheap jump scares and recycled plot points from the original. Definitely some cheap jump scares, not as cheap as a lot of like Blumhouse horror movies, but I understand the frustration with that. Plot points recycled? I mean, kind of. But I think this is a new enough story that doesn't feel anything like Smile 1. Instead of building on the psychological tension that made the first movie interesting, it feels like a lazy cash grab. I think the psychological tension in this one is way better than Smile 1. Smile 1 felt, again, so hokey and I couldn't buy it. This one does its job despite the ending. The characters are one-dimensional and the story lacks any real depth or originality. By the time the predictable ending rolls around, you'll be left wondering why you wasted your time. It's more of the same but with even less substance. I would say more of the same with more substance, and the characters are more fleshed out here than I think Smile 1 was, but I don't know, maybe I'm just fooling myself. Now we got a 1 out of 10 star review from Connor Amanda. This movie was so trash. The story was trash. The first one was a psychological thriller horror movie. This one was basically the stupid ending to The Last Smile the entire movie. It made zero sense. It wasn't scary. It was goody, if anything. And this actress was the worst. Absolutely no acting ability at all. Avi disagree with that. I'm so sad because I really liked the first one even with the ending. This movie used gore to compensate for the terrible acting and lack of substance. Was it that gory? I mean, kind of, but I feel like they skimped actually on some gore. Maybe it's because I watched Terrifier 3 not that long ago, but I don't feel like this was very gory. The first one had intensity, a great storyline. The new one is just a pale imitation of what could have been a great second film, but that's all we get now is trash. I really do disagree. I know people like the first one, but this one is definitely superior on almost every metric, in my opinion. Give us a good scary movie with a strong story, good actors, not even great, just not god-awful, and don't put all the good parts in the trailers, then beat it like a dead horse. That's a big thing I had with the first movie. I saw the trailer for Smile so many times at the movie theater, and by the time I saw the movie, yeah, all the scares were in the trailer. I didn't see the trailer for this movie leading up to it, so I can't say that that was spoiled for me, but the first one was awful about this. I guess I understand the frustration, but still, this is a weird review, I think. For me, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend this movie. It's definitely not for me, but I also don't think it's the worst thing out there. If you liked the first one, I think you're really gonna like this one. It's more of a mainstream horror film, and I think if you're into that, you'll get some good spooks out of it, some good scares. I will agree with one of the reviews that says watch it with friends or something. I watched it alone, and I think I would have definitely had more fun if I watched it with people. So some people would like this. It's just not for me. But if there's one thing I learned through this movie is that I probably shouldn't spend as much time with my drug dealer. I don't really care about Dragon Ball Z, and turns out weed's been legal here for like a long time. What the f*** am I doing? Did you like this movie? Do you think it was better than Smile 1? Did you hate this movie? Do you hate all of these movies? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. But if you have made it this far, thanks for sticking around. Be sure to like and subscribe and stuff. All that stuff really helps. Bell for notifications. We do have that carrier pigeon option in there. Pretty new to YouTube. Pretty gross, but you should try it out anyway. Until next time, I guess I'll try out some rehab as long as my cat can come.